Hey, I'm Erin Esser. I am a certified parenting coach, weaving in the magic of human design to help you as a parent guide your child into who they were uniquely designed to be. And this is because I believe that life and parenting is a playground of possibility. And when we're in that place and holding that space of possibility, self sabotage and discord get transmuted into self mastery and lasting connection. Now, one question that I get a lot from my clients and just other parents that I know is, how do I connect with my kid on a deeper level? I want to connect with them, but I'm having a really hard time really getting to that place, that emotional place within them that I feel that, that we're really connecting in this place. I feel that there's more discord. I feel that there's more arguments. There's more irritation, or just kind of passing through the day and through the night without that connection. So, one of the things that I've had to do in my own parenting journey is to redefine what being a parent means to me. Because let's face it, most of us were raised in some way with a control over paradigm. And if we want more of a connection based paradigm, like the connection over control, right, versus control, then it's about us as parents redefining what it means to be a parent, because we only know what we know. And what we grew up with is what we know. So it's up to us to redefine what that means. What are the values that you have as a parent? And if one of those values is connecting, then the first thing that any parent needs to do, I did as well, and I continue to do it every day, is to heal our own emotional wounding, is to acknowledge the needs that were not met when we were a child. This isn't to place blame or shame on our parents in any way. It's just to acknowledge ourselves. We all have a story. And when we acknowledge our own story, we can make peace with our own past. And we all have needs. And let's face it, we're raised by other human beings who are imperfect. And you're imperfect, and I'm imperfect. And so we mess up. And it's okay as long as we acknowledge those things and say, oh gosh, I had this need to be heard and to feel seen as a child. And I never felt seen. I never really felt heard. So when we start to acknowledge those things about our own past, we naturally start to connect with our children in a deeper way. Because when we heal those wounds within ourselves, we become more emotionally aware. We become more emotionally attuned. We're able to hold space for ourselves in a new way. Therefore, we're able to hold space for our children in a way that we haven't been able to before. So I'll give you one example. Well, I'll give you a question and then an example. So the question that I will ask for you is, if you want to really dive into this and heal, start to heal your own emotional wounding, and we all have it. Here's the question for you. Do your kids ever trigger you? Do you ever get triggered by your kids? I know I do. If you're human, you probably do too. So it's natural. But our triggers, I believe, are a portal to our own self-growth and our own healing if we learn how to engage with them and work through them and allow them to teach us about ourselves, versus allowing those triggers to just bounce off of us and then project out onto our children or onto somebody else. So here's a tip for you. I'm going to give you an example. A couple of years ago, when we moved to Asheville, North Carolina, I was walking with my kids, and it was an afternoon in the summertime. And I had this expectation of, like, we're going to go for this walk and we're going to have fun and we're just going to have a nice time together. Well, my daughter, who was 14 at the time, was really not enjoying herself at all. She was in a mood and she was not being very talkative, or, she was just really more about into herself. And then when she did talk, I could tell she was just in a mood. She wasn't very pleasant. Let's just say that. So I immediately was triggered in that, because I had this expectation that I wanted to have a good time with my kids, but she really wasn't in that space. So my immediate reaction, what I wanted to do in that moment, was to shut her down, was to tell her that, she's okay. There's nothing to be upset about. And that we're going to go on this nice walk and we're all going to have fun, right? Completely negating her own experience. I didn't do that, thank goodness. But in the past, I had done that before. So again, I'm walking along with you as a parent on this path in the trenches, because I've had to do this for myself. And this is a learning and growing process. And that's all self-mastery is bringing in self-awareness. So what happened was, instead of me reacting to that, I paid attention to my own emotion that was coming up, my own trigger that was coming up. And I took it personally. Again, because I had this expectation, and that expectation wasn't being fulfilled the way that I had wanted it to be fulfilled. So in order for me to really show up and be the parent that I desire to be, I had to make a different choice in that moment. So I asked myself the question, how can I give her the space to just be able to have her own process and know that this is not personal, and that I can still have a good time. I can still have a great time and still allow her to have her own experience. That's one of the biggest gifts that we as parents can give our children. How can we allow our children to have their own experience without us taking it personally, thinking that it makes us a bad parent because they're not having a good time now on this walk that I had this expectation of having a great time? That just doesn't even logically make sense, does it, when we really sit with it? So this was a trigger for me, but I was able to, instead of reacting, I was able to pause and ask myself questions of like, gosh, what is coming up within me right now? What's happening within me right now that can teach me? Because emotions are just clues of our beliefs about ourselves. That's all they are. So it helped me that day to be able to connect and give my daughter space, allow her to feel safe in her own emotional process, and that she had the freedom to be who she was, no matter what that looked like. And she did. She just had her own process and she moved through it pretty quickly. Had I shut her down though in that moment, had I made her feel like she didn't have a right to have her own emotional experience, that would have disconnected us and brought in more discord in our relationship than me just allowing her to be who she was. And then I allowed myself to still have a good time. So next time this happens to you and your child, just bring in a little bit of that awareness before you react. Try to pause and ask yourself the question, what's really going on here? What's going on underneath me right now? That if I brought in more awareness, if I shined a light on what's happening within me, how could that over time, build more connection with myself and my child? How can I allow more space for my own process, more space for my child's process, and create emotional safety? That's what true connection really is feeling emotionally safe to express ourselves fully, without judgment, without rejection. The more we can do that for ourselves, the more we're able to do that for our child. And connection in that point, in that space, starts to transform and starts to cultivate itself naturally. I hope you found value in this. And remember, parenting is a journey. It's practice. And it's about healing our own emotional wounds. It's about forgiving and making peace with our own past so that we can show up and be the parent that we truly desire to be. Until next time.